Welcome back to Feedback, where the streets are talking, and they had a lot to say this past weekend at Club Confessions, Madonna's party celebrating the release of her new album, Confessions 2. The conversation wasn't about Madonna's fab new album, by the way. It was about the fact that Senator Lindsey Graham died on Saturday night, and the news dropped while we were all on the dance floor, which is sad because it means Lindsey wasn't there, and I know he'd have loved dancing to Madonna. This has, of course, reignited a whole new don't speak ill of the dead conversation that always arises when a Republican asshole dies. But I'm more annoyed by every Democratic leader's rush to put out a statement talking about how he was their GBF. I have people like Cory Booker doing one of his walk and talk videos where he says, "I'm stunned by Senator Graham's passing and thinking back this morning about some of the work we did together. My prayers are with his family and all who cherished him. Rest in peace." Girl, what was the point of that? I mean, jumping online to immediately celebrate this man and talk about how you were friends with him seems kind of crazy, and it feels very insincere, and it feels like we can't trust you. There's a complete lack of discernment here when it comes to how Democratic leaders are supposed to be on our side, but they are also friends with people in the Senate who are working very hard and doing their best to strip away the rights from their constituents. You have Amy Klobuchar posting, "It was a shock this morning to find out that my friend Lindsey Graham had died. He was a man who loved his work, his country, and his family." He didn't love his country. He didn't love everyone in his country. He actually hated quite a few people in this country. And from everything we've learned about him, he hated himself too. He didn't have an easy life growing up, she continued, and to me that explained a lot about him as well as his devotion to his remaining family members, including his sister. It explains to you why he worked to overturn Roe v. Wade, why he worked to strip rights away from LGBTQ people in this country. I just think that stuff like this is why it is so hard to trust our elected officials. And you have people like Anna Navarro and Sarah Haynes on The View saying that they were upset that people were celebrating Lindsey Graham's death online. You know what? People were celebrating his death in the club, because these are the very people whose lives are constantly affected by the bullshit that Republicans do and push through the Senate. And specifically, I want to respond to something that Sarah said, where she said that she was disturbed by people saying on social media not to humanize the senator. You don't have to humanize a human. He was a human, and so there were people that loved him. There are people that cared for him. There are people that he didn't care for. There are people that he dehumanized. And so to me, no, he wasn't a human. And I think that people affected by policies that he pushes should be allowed to celebrate that he can't do that anymore, that he can't spend 10 more years in the Senate as you assumed that he was going to do. He was 71. No one should be in the Senate at 81 in the first place, especially if they are going to continue to use their power for ill will towards most of this country. Anyway, stream Madonna's album Confessions 2. I had a great time at the club. And let's get to today's episode. Today, I'm joined by Crossword constructor and writer Natan Last. We spend a lot of time talking about crossword puzzles, but really, we're talking about taste. We get into how crosswords became one of our most fascinating cultural artifacts and ask questions like, who decides what's worth remembering? And why do some cultural references become canon while others disappear? And how can a crossword have a point of view? We also discuss AI, the crossover between Real Housewives, rap, and poetry, the great COVID crossword boom, and the day Natan immortalized me as a clue in the New York Times crossword. Finally, someone decided not to go with Ira Glass. Feedback starts now. Natan, welcome to Feedback. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I want to get things started by getting personal. What is your crossword ritual and how has it changed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I'm dispositionally a paper and pen solver. So I grew up, ripping out of the art section, getting my hands dirty with the ink on the paper. I mean, I like that tactile sensation of solving a puzzle. I like the collage of the random stuff that's, pasted around the puzzle. So that's the old ritual and routine. Now when I remember to do the puzzle, I take out my phone and I do it. I'm actually not usually a creature of routine.
Okay.
And so I'm really into the people who are streak obsessives, who wake up, 10 p.m. the puzzle comes out, it's done by like 10:12. I'm not like that. I will do it when I remember to do it. And I kind of like it that way. I like when it re-enchants me and I get like kind of re-obsessed with it.
Okay, so that's surprising. You don't do the puzzle every day.
I don't do it every day. And there are some days when I do 0 puzzles, and there are other days when I do 27 puzzles, right?
When did this change?
I think...
was it the app?
I think the app is a big part of it. Yeah. I don't have a lot of apps. Like I had a flip phone for a long time.
Okay.
I'm one of those. Yeah, I'm one of those. And yeah, I just like, I'm not also a tracker. So the app is very interested in how fast you did it, how many days in a row you did it. And those are amazing for lots of people. And for me, I just kind of want to do it when I feel like doing it.
I think apps, it's weird because, I mean, the company gets paid either way, but they want you to keep using it. And
Totally.
streaks are everywhere. There's this app I use called Belly too, where it tracks restaurants you go to, and it's always messaging me, you're going to miss your streak if you don't go to a new restaurant this week.
100%.
I'm like, well, I don't want to go out to dinner this week.
Yeah, don't talk to me like that. It's like when the owl at Duolingo shames you. You're like, it's not about you. I'm trying to learn something.
That all hates me.
Yeah, that owl has a lot to say in Spanish.
You constructed your first times puzzle at 16, and your editor, Will Shortz, took the first Sunday puzzle you ever submitted. So what does that do to one's own creative ego?
It's probably not good. It's probably bad. I mean, that first puzzle was about trigonometry, so I was still waving the like teacher's pet flag. Back then my dad is a public school math teacher, so I've always loved math, and so I feel like what it did was it gave me an audience of people, some of whose opinions I dearly cared about. So there's this guy, Rex Parker, a pseudonym, who like vitriolically reviews the New York Times puzzle every day, and he hates basically every puzzle. He's so angry that there was a puzzle. And I remember like really wanting to impress him, wanting...
When you were 16?
Yeah, like wanting to put like, Nabokov in the grid because he loved Nabokov, wanting to put Simpsons references because he loved The Simpsons. Having the same, or discovering that you have the same like cultural purview as someone and wanting to do that meshing, like that's what it did. It made me want to find those people really desperately.
Okay, so I already had questions written down about Rex Parker because I was intrigued reading your book to discover that the idea of crossword criticism existed in the first place.
Yeah.
And if you were doing this to impress him when you were 16, he's obviously been doing it for a while.
Totally. I mean, one of the interesting things you bring up the apps is, now you can go to the Times website and see an inundation of like 80 grandmas who are mad at you for like having Lake Erie in the puzzle for the umpteenth time for good reason. But so what's interesting is, when there were a smaller number of critical voices, I guess. It's way too fancy for what it was. I mean, he's a literature professor by training, right? So he did bring, in a tongue-in-cheek way, that kind of incisive, I'm going to close read the crossword a little bit, or I'm going to let the crossword be a jump-off point for free associative cultural riffs, which is what he was really good at. And the grumpiness helped. It's good to have a persona. So I loved that back in the day there were one or two voices that could come down hard either way on the puzzle. Now, actually, because of that, everyone has an opinion. It's really easy to get lost in the sauce, right?
I mean, I feel that way on something like Threads every day. There's constantly opinions on like a reality show that I'm watching. Like I'm seeing Summer House opinions every fucking day from people who have either just you get mixes of people who've been watching the show for 10 years, people who just started watching the show and have very strong opinions, and you want to sometimes respond to them and be like, well, maybe if you watched all 10 seasons, you would get this,
Totally.
And I don't think we as human beings need to hear that many opinions every day.
We don't. And the best opinion to hear is yours, which is do the reading, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that doesn't happen every day. Yeah, I mean, my wife and I have a newborn, and we're training him to be a Real Housewives of Rhode Island devotee.
Okay.
Because she's from Rhode Island.
It's the best fucking show.
It's so good. It's so good. And the like malapropisms in it are, I think, the best I've ever seen.
Jane's Fonda.
What's the phrase about killing the horse? He's like, you talking about beat a dead horse?
The first episode referenced, what was it? It referenced My Fair Lady. With Liz and Kelsey
literally
go to have a drink and they both say gin was mother's milk to her. I was like, what is this doing in My Housewives?
Yeah. That's right. This is meta commentary now. 100%. Yeah. The Epstein salt, that was amazing.
Yeah.
She's great. I mean, these are all from one person. All Alicia.
Is this specific to your wife being from Rhode Island, or have you watched other Housewives?
Oh,
franchises?
We're really big Salt Lake City and Potomac fans.
Great.
Yeah, enormous.
Okay.
If you were on the show, what would your like one-liner be? Because these are puns.
I know. I don't know. I've always asked that question, and I always have a bad answer. But mine is some form of Giselle Bryant's from Potomac, because I am constantly talking about the streets, like the word on the street.
Yeah.
Hers is the word on the street is I'm the word on the street.
Yeah.
That was her first tagline ever, and I'm always talking about the streets. And it's funny when people have never like heard that phrase before. yeah,
totally. But I have a friend, Cameron Austin Collins, the critic, and he's a critic. And so I decided that his would be, they say everyone's a critic, but I'm better than everyone.
That brings me, I guess, to the question of when you decide something is culturally important enough to put into a puzzle, right? Yeah. Obviously, Housewives is important now. Yep. Can you recall the first time Housewives became a reference in the crossword?
It's a really good question. I mean, one thing that must have happened is that NENE, right? Is almost always and for years that was clued by way of, I think it's a Hawaiian bird, right? And or there was a basketball player named Hilario, right? So what happened? You can track when the Times gets comfortable shifting the point of reference. I mean, this is an old thing. I mean, Oreo was clued for 60 years or so as a Greek prefix that means mountainous. It's like, what? Nobody knows that.
Yeah.
And it's not until Will Shortz takes over in 1993 that you can clue as the cookie finally, right?
When's it going to be a white acting black person?
Well, that's the thing. Probably, there have been puzzles, not in the New York Times, that have used that reference.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. Some people actually don't like putting Oreo in the puzzle because, in some context, it's a slur.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Maybe in middle school.
Yeah. Right.
It's a slur, but you must have that. You must have that problem a lot with a lot of words.
Yes. I mean, there's a huge movement to sort of adopt like a do no harm ethic for the puzzle. I mean, this came out of what was going on in like the 2010s where, reacting to the fact that there weren't a lot of, pop cultural references, that whenever cultural references came in, they were often included in the most mainstream way possible, or that, one of the things that happened is whenever, Elsa was clued before Frozen came out, it would be like Albert Einstein's second wife. It's like, come on, there are famous women named Elsa. We can do that instead. And so there's a huge movement to make the puzzle less sexist, right? Less racist, more inclusive. Like more interesting puzzle is one that has references from lots and lots of different cultural touchstones. I mean, critics are often crossword constructors. I mentioned Cam Collins, but there are lots of people who love, a puzzle that feels like a full meal, like a puzzle that has, one of Cam's first puzzles had Arcade Fire stacked on top of Martin Amis, right? Like that's a fun duo, JavaScript next to the Dakar rally, pulling from lots of different parts of culture as if to kind of construct a world, right? Like this is my cultural network. And there are all these fun nodes that I think you should learn about. So yeah, I mean, there's a huge movement to make the puzzle less messed up and more ranging, which I think has just been for the better.
Well, do you feel like that is something that's easier to accomplish now? Just because, I mean, think of culture in general. You have, when you're looking at maybe your feed on the internet, you can see someone talking about politics, and then you can see someone talking about books and talking about Real Housewives, and podcasts now and cultural critics, like they will write about books, but you'll also have like Roxane Gay writing about Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah.
Do you think that people's cultural diets have changed where they're consuming everything? So it sort of it would feel weird to not include current pop culture, even though it might piss off some older people in the comments.
Totally.
But are those older people even in the comments?
Well, they're in the comments, but they're allowed
from Facebook.
They're a loud minority. Exactly. They're on Facebook. Yeah. They're texting their sons to be like, "Can you log me in so I can come for this Tuesday puzzle?" Yeah, no, it is like that. I mean, one of the things that happened kind of beautifully in a dark time was during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people started solving more puzzles.
Yeah.
This was the ramp up of the times. They buy Wordle in 2021, and all of a sudden everyone has access to all these games and is starting to develop opinions about these games. And, the journalist Oliver Roeder has a line that, in March 2020, perhaps at no other time were more games being played in human history. This was the pinnacle of game playing. We were at home. We, needed something to combat the grayness of lockdown, the social separation of lockdown. So people turned to games. And I think
I turned to drinking.
I mean, I did both. Yeah, so definitely why not both situation. Yeah, totally. I think my streak increased and my waistline increased. Right, like that's what happened. And one thing that happened is that people who had thought of themselves as puzzle hobbyists, people who love pop culture, who felt like the puzzle really wasn't for them, started to try their hand at making puzzles. So exactly to your point, there's like a new archipelago of these new outlets. Puzzmo, Apple has a puzzle. The New Yorker Crossword is getting bigger and bigger. There are these alternatives to the times. The Vulture Crossword. These promise a more ranging cultural diet, but also they're coming from new voices that provide their own, diaristic understanding of what is fun. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. If the New York Times and like that's actually for you.
All right. Hello.
Hi, Natan. It's Doe. It's funny because this is the sort of thing I would text you about, but we can do this in a public forum, which is even better. I'm wondering if you saw Joyce Carol Oates' missive, in which she says, in response to being a very frequent answer to crossword puzzles, she says this: "Truly, I don't mean to be annoying, but who on earth has time for crossword puzzles? And why? I did enjoy crossword puzzles in Playmate magazine long ago as a child, but since then, no. However, it is probably flattering to be of value because of the vowels in my name." Trying to see that perspective. So, really funny. But I was wondering if you could tell us where this attitude is coming from, of people being really curmudgeonly towards the crossword puzzle. Thank you. Bye.
That's amazing.
You know what? Every time I kind of forget that there's a phone there.
I've been thinking about this for so many days. So
okay.
Doreen mentioned that Joyce Carol Oates. I mean, Joyce Carol Oates is a top poster, maybe the top poster.
Honestly, she's had a transformation, because don't you remember when I feel like we were all sick of Joyce Carol Oates' tweets?
Yeah.
Years ago. Some of them were kind of crazy. And now I kind of love them.
All hits.
Yeah.
And she's kind of the inverse Helen DeWitt of the last couple. I mean, I feel like when the old literary titanesses take to Twitter, it's usually going to be fun.
Yeah.
Good fun or bad fun, but it's going to be fun. Yeah, no, Joyce Carol Oates, I mean, it's so funny. Her line is, who has time for crosswords?
She has time.
She has time.
She needs to brick her phone. She is on Twitter all day.
Yeah, she's posting.
The most time of any author.
The most time. Responding, her replies are robust. She definitely takes the time to figure out what she wants to say. Yeah, I mean, I think the big question here is, who has time for literature, right? This is something that, the crosswords history is a history of, when it comes out in the jazz age, people saying, this is intellectual, but it's also leisure time. It's frivolous, but it also canonizes the important names of the day. And then it's ephemeral. I throw it out. It appears in the newspaper, but it's separate from the newspaper. And so the puzzle just has inherently this question about, are you a time waster, or are you improving my mind? Are you giving me a world by, slicing a part of pop culture for me to consume? Or are you quizzing me in an annoying way? And, I think people have time for puzzles because they constantly give you that back and forth of, I feel like I'm getting smarter. I also feel like I'm, letting myself waste in a productive way a couple of minutes of my day, right? Wordle doesn't have to be good for you to do it. And then there's a whole other thing here, which is the kind of manufactured addictiveness of these games, right? So like, who has time for, crosswords? Well, apparently the, millions and millions of people who now spend more time on the Times Games app than the news feature, right? I mean, this is big business. So like, everyone's got time for it. That's the thing.
I mean, also when you're Joyce Carol Oates and you've been in the crossword for decades, maybe you don't care anymore. She probably cared the first time she appeared.
Right. This is the whole thing. So you've been an answer.
Right. Okay. So I feel like a housewife pulling out something
Yes.
out of reunion. I have February 3rd, 2019.
Oh my God.
The first time I appeared in the New York Times crossword. It was Super Bowl Sunday.
Yes.
And I was in Albuquerque shooting a television show. It is right here. The clue was writer/critic blank Madison 3rd. It's the only thing I filled out on it because I didn't want to ruin it.
Amazing.
But it was written by you.
Yeah.
So
you're welcome.
Thank you for one. Why did you not use Ira Glass that day?
Sometimes you got to wake up and not choose Ira Glass.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the puzzle. The most fun thing about writing puzzles is, for me, the clues, because the clues get to collect shout outs and like talk about. They can be a mixtape, right? And so I mean, you were someone that I was reading and listening to, so it was like and also, it's boring to have another Ira Glass clue, right?
Yeah.
And there's a huge movement to just clue things in a fresh way. And so yeah, it's nice to be like, this is a new angle, and I think you guys should, look this person up, right? That's the function of a novel crossword clue, hopefully.
Oh, well, thank
Yeah,
you.
of
This
course. I'm
really meant a lot to me.
I'm glad.
The first day I read it. The weird part about it existing, back then, is like that was my first ever clue.
Yeah.
And, Keep It had been on for like a year at that point. Now, whenever I pop up in a crossword puzzle or something, like I was in Apples recently.
Yeah.
This is
You tired of it?
this is a very like egotistical problem to have. But sometimes a friend will send it to me, right? And they're very excited to have seen me in the crossword. And you kind of want to say, well, I've been in the Times.
Right.
Like they're very happy that I'm in Apple's crossword puzzle today. And
Don't be sending me a screenshot.
I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much.
Yeah.
If you want to go back to my Instagram and look at 2019 before I had more followers, I was in the New York Times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I respect that. You're like, it was a moment of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you describe it as creating a mixtape in your book. You can sort of put in the pieces of literature, music, movies, TV, anything that you like. What do you think is like your ideal perfect like mixtape? And also, I guess that lends me to the question of how did you create your voice as a crossword puzzle writer? And obviously it has changed since you were writing about trigonometry.
Yeah, let's hope so. No, totally. I mean, one aspect of this is, again, the puzzle is diaristic, and so it just ends up, if you let it, reflecting the things that you care about, or the things that I care about find themselves nestled into the crossword. I mean, my perfect mixtape in the crossword form is something that I love learning new words from the puzzle.
Okay.
And there is when I was a kid, there was a like class aspect to this where the misshapen vocabulary of the crossword were like my $10 words. Like I would go around saying ambit and like inure the wrong moments, right? Like you learn, these vowel-y words through the puzzle. You learn a vocabulary, you learn a language. And so my favorite puzzles do that high-low blend. They have a bit of Nabokov and a bit of The Simpsons, and they're cosmopolitan. So in my day job, I work in humanitarian immigration. I work with refugees and asylum seekers. And so I've been exposed to a lot of words that aren't in English, a lot of heads of state that aren't from the Americas. And I like a puzzle that has, Julius Nyerere in it or something like that. I like a puzzle with literature. I like a puzzle with a point of view. I like a political puzzle. I like a puzzle that's not afraid to lean into the fact that crosswords pick out what counts as common sense, and can use in the cluing, however small of a consequence. They can use the clue to frame something for someone, right? They can introduce someone to something they hadn't thought about before. And so I like puzzles that push on all of those cylinders.
Okay, so like speaking of your crossword voice, I loved this moment in your book where you discussed in 2022 in the Saturday puzzle in the Times, you include the answer thong song.
Yeah.
And your original clue was Cisco #1 hit with the lyric, "Ooh, that dress so scandalous." It became 2000 Cisco hit with a rhyming title. And then Peter Gordon, who is a longtime editor and constructor, told you in his thick Long Island accent that thong and song don't rhyme.
Yeah, thong and song don't rhyme. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is amazing. I mean, first of all, hilarious. Second of all, it's a good moment to remind ourselves that like the clues go through that kind of transformation. The clue had been changed, and hopefully the intent was to make it easier, but it actually just confused people from Long Island.
Well, that brings up another thing that you mentioned in the book, which is sort of, I guess, one of your mission statements of it. It was to deflate an assumption that I've often heard, that editors of puzzle sections write every puzzle. Do you find that that's a problem people maybe used to have with your puzzles and don't anymore? Like, have people gotten used to your voice?
Definitely. I mean, there have been structural interventions that have helped change that. So, for a long time, that's probably still true in the paper. Will Shortz's name is bigger than the person who wrote the puzzle, right? The editorship has...
I think his might be smaller.
Great.
In this one. It says it at the top.
Yeah.
It says edited by Will Shortz, but underneath the title of the crossword puzzle, it says written by Natan Last.
Totally, yeah. The Sundays, I think, are a really important exception, 100%.
Yeah.
But the app has given the constructor more of the spotlight's share. And then when the New Yorker came onto the scene, the New Yorker, whose entire ethos is, writer forward, editor behind the scenes.
Yeah.
The crossword constructors on the New Yorker roster, we all have a really specific voice. And we were brought in to showcase that voice. And so there have been all these changes that let the constructor take center stage a little bit more. And also just there have been so many more at-bats for people to solve puzzles that whatever my voice is, and it's this, ranging, interested in poetry and dumb dad jokes and all this stuff, people have been solving puzzles long enough that they get to know you a little bit,
Which do you prefer writing for, the Times or the New Yorker? I would imagine the New Yorker would be more headier.
Yeah. I mean, the New Yorker lets me be me more. So if I clue a random 4-letter word via a poet that I really like, the New Yorker's into it. Or I had a puzzle that had 2 writers I admire, Valeria Luiselli stacked on top of Garth Greenwell. And like, those are just 2 contemporary novelists I think are great. Not everybody knows who those people are. New Yorker readers
Garth Greenwell is very Joyce Carol Oatesy in how much he is online. So I think everyone knows his name at this point.
They definitely should. No, I agree. And so it's like, you couldn't really get away with that in the Times. So the flip side of that is sometimes there's a fun instinct to put something in the New York Times that the editors will be a little harumphing about.
Right.
So, putting Bootylicious in the middle of a grid and having all the tweety old people put that in with their pencils, or putting... I once had a puzzle that was almost rejected because it stacked, so it had all in a row the answers Flavor Flav, I Am America, the Colbert book, and Spice Girls. And that was like a little too much 90s Technicolor maybe for the Times, right? I mean, and the editing process involves going word by word. You're looking at the grid and you're thinking, what does this mixtape evoke in me? And I remember watching Will Shortz edit that puzzle and he put a little minus sign next to Flavor Flav, which like maybe he's earned that minus sign.
No, it's interesting when you talk about people recognizing your voice too, because you had also mentioned that you were the one who put Anwar not in there as a terrorist.
Yeah. So this was a puzzle co-constructed with a class I teach to retirees called the Jewish Association Serving the Aging class. We'd had like maybe 20 puzzles in the Times, and every time Anwar is in a puzzle, it is clued as Anwar Sadat, the Egyptian president, and that's what we did. And this was a moment before crossword writers got proofs, which is a really low bar. I mean, for years, you would wake up on the day your puzzle was running to see and then experience for the first time any of the edits that the editorial team had introduced. And that's bad for many reasons. But this was a moment where the clue had gone from Egyptian President Sadat to, blank al-Awlaki, terrorist killed in a U.S. drone strike. And there's a lot wrong with that.
Yeah.
One is it breaks the Times, own purported rule of the, Sunday morning breakfast test.
Yeah.
That the puzzle's supposed to activate your mind or not your body, which is its own version of a kind of tired buttoned upness that's not even adhered to anyway. But if anything is going to exercise someone going to the crossword for a mistake, a murder by drone is probably going to be at the top of the list. Right. And, the clue calls al-Awlaki a terrorist, even though like the ACLU was fighting it. This was one of the first extrajudicial murders of the Obama drone era. This was a moment when the drone strike gets to be American, right? It's American drone strike, even though he was a U.S. citizen. So the puzzle was just proving the way that every clue, rather than existing in, encyclopedic one-to-one relationship with clue, answer, indisputable linkage. No, there's an editorial stance, always. Exacerbated in that clue, but behind every clue, there is a point of view. And I think frustrated me a lot because I had people reach out and say, you work in the field of international migration and so on. You would never do that. And it was cool to be acknowledged in that way.
Maybe next time just make it Dua Lipa's ex-boyfriend, Anwar Hadid.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, this is why I'm gonna keep that in mind.
You talked about Nabokov a lot, and first of all, I'm obsessed with rereading his Paris Review interview all
incredible.
The time.
Yeah.
It's maybe the best one ever.
Yeah.
I love him as a writer. I did not know that he published the first known Russian language crosswords. And I love this quote from him. Well, you sort of mentioned that he saw a crossword puzzle as literature, basically. It promised the same curatorial power as the novel. And you obviously love literature as well. Just what is the connection you feel like between a crossword puzzle now and literature in the past and now in the present?
Yeah, I mean, the history of the two of them is really intertwined. So the crossword, begins in 1913. It kind of comes of age in the Jazz Age. In 1924, the first crossword puzzle compendium is published. It's Simon & Schuster's first ever book. They
hit it.
They did.
Right?
Yes, they hit it. They were scared they were going to be, typecast as unserious playing people. This is literature, right? They both left other jobs. Schuster actually had left a job at Bonai and Liveright the very month after Horace Liveright had come back from Paris to offer T.S. Eliot $150 to publish The Wasteland in the U.S. So modernism is happening and the crossword is gaining traction. Critics of the time start to understand formally evasive or, overly erudite literature as crossword puzzles. So when The Wasteland comes out, one critic skewers it by saying, it may be a great poem. On the other hand, it may be just a pompous crossword puzzle, right? Gertrude Stein, her, maneuvering syntax is skewered the same way. So people take language that is unrecognizable or that pulls from as yet untold corners of culture. They take it to be bad literature, right? They take it to be overwhelming. And one of the things that crossword puzzles and poetry in particular, but literature in general, really share is that love of words for things other than their meanings, right?
Mhm.
So a crossword constructor, loves Joyce Carol Oates because her full name is 15 letters long. And so it spans the full length of the grid.
Yeah.
Her last name has all those vowels. So it's going to fit nicely in a certain row. A poet loves a word because of the sonic quality. I also write
Yeah.
poetry, and you end up falling in love with words by forestalling their meaning, by not thinking about how they refer, and just looking at them sometimes or hearing them. And so that ability to kind of let language do something else is really common, especially to modernist poetry and to crosswords.
Yeah, and I mean, there's currently the conversation about, are people reading enough? Is that a problem with crossword puzzles, though? Because everyone is doing crossword puzzles in the Games app now.
Right. And is that replacing reading? I mean, I don't know. I mean, when crosswords came onto the scene, the New York Times hated them. So in 1925, there's an article in the Times called "A Familiar Form of Madness." Last year it was mahjong. This year it's crosswords. Next year will be some weird dance, right? Like they're upset that the flappers, the jazz age children are casting off Victorian mores and the corsets and buttoned up vibes of the previous era, and dancing in flowy dresses, and also particularly with women devoting their intellectual prowess to something that looked unproductive, right? This is a moment where playing is kind of seen as suspect. It's the moment where leisure is kind of beginning as a concept.
No, I do not see this in the movie Chicago or like The Great Gatsby. I even read Ex-Wife recently. It's so weird to discover that the jazz age was the boom of crosswords, and I don't see people doing crosswords in books from that era.
Totally. Yeah, I mean there are a couple of whodunits and detective novels that, of course, because they have that same crossword energy to them, right? Will feature someone solving a puzzle. But there's, the Harold Lloyd film, The Freshman, in the 1925 film. You see him get on the train, and there's a woman solving a crossword, and the question is something like, synonym for honey. And so he and this woman start flirting by saying sweetheart, lover, honeybee, and so on. And an old lady hears them and turns around and is like, oh, isn't it beautiful to be a newlywed, or something like that. And they get embarrassed. Like they were flirting under the sign of the crosswords veil, right? Like we're just doing wordplay. This is a Victorian parlor game of extremely deceptive flirtation. Once it's acknowledged, the jig is up, and he runs off the train and like falls or whatever, right? So you do see occasionally it depicted, but definitely it's happening at this time. I mean, the B&O Railroad stocks its seatbacks with crosswords, right? The commute is becoming a thing, mass movement. And so, yeah, crosswords are really looked down upon, as you say, the question about reading. Libraries are pissed, and librarians ban crosswords. Which
is crazy to think about.
It's crazy, obviously. Yeah, this is like, they're like archival objects, right? But they when the crosswords are filed in the stacks, they censor the puzzle page. They don't let crossword solvers use the dictionaries or use the thesaurus for crossword projects. This is for serious readers who should be reading Shakespeare if they want to get a bigger vocabulary. There's a huge uproar and furor around what was called a crossword craze, right? There are these dances and galas where crossword dresses are touted out. It seemed to be shirking, right? The London Times writes a piece in 1924 called "An Enslaved America," right? And
of course that was America's slavery problem.
Yeah. Thank you, the UK. Thanks for the introspection. Yeah, it's like, and they tally up the number of waking hours devoted to crossword puzzle solving that could be devoted to productive labor, right?
Which is crazy, because it's the idea that crossword puzzles are the enemy of capitalism at the time, when now it's sort of a tool of
100%.
Capitalism, because people playing the crosswords makes the paper money.
100%. I mean, the thing I track in the book is the way you have this cultural rhythm of dismissal and then sober acceptance. So the Times is so anti-crossword because of exactly that reason. You're not serious. You should be reading the news. And then Pearl Harbor happens, and Margaret Farrar, who had edited that first crossword compendium by Simon & Schuster, she says, people are going to be at home. It's going to be bleak blackout hours. The lights will be turned off. We need a distraction. You can't think of your troubles while solving a crossword. And so the Times finally relents in 1942. I mean, in 2008, after the financial crisis, a bunch of newspapers cut their puzzle pages, leading to a huge reader uproar. And they have to say, James Bennett at The Atlantic at the time says something like, yeah, we have to concentrate on our journalistic mission. Crosswords, it's not important. And then, just a decade later, Crosswords underwrite that journalistic mission, right? They help fund and cross-subsidize the hard-hitting reportage that appears in the same paper, right?
Is this TikTok now?
What do you mean?
Is TikTok going to end up in the Times?
Oh, definitely. Hello?
Hi, Natan. This is Dan Fayer, former champion crossword solver. How important do you think it is to attract new solvers to crosswords? What do you think is the best way for constructors or publishers to bring in new audiences, and which outlets are doing the best job of that right now?
That's a great question.
That was Dan Fayer.
That was Dan Fayer.
Who is a pianist and a musical director. And he solves more than 20 puzzles a day.
Yeah. And he must be able to do a Monday New York Times puzzle in under a minute, I think.
Yeah.
He's a speed demon. It's too fast. Yeah, so Dan's question is about this sense that we do want to attract new solvers. And I think there's kind of two camps here. I mean, because I grew up as a paper and pen solver, I don't really care about, I didn't care about the mini when it first came out. I was like, what is this tiny puzzle? Give me the real puzzle, and I've warmed to the idea that it's this like amuse-bouche or whatever that attracts new solvers who, for good reason, have felt intimidated by the 15 by 15 grid. I get it. I mean, the puzzle does sometimes seem to shame you for not knowing what's in it, and there's lots of ways to avoid that. I think one way to avoid it is to consciously seek those new solvers out. And there are outlets like Puzzmo, the Apple News puzzle. The New Yorker, I think, does try to seek out a different solvership. I mean, having a point of view really helps. And Puzzmo does this thing that's really geared towards new solvers where they have hints. If you don't understand the first level of the clue, there's another clue kind of waiting in the wings for you. And I think that really helps people learn the language of the crossword. I think it's important to attract new solvers, and another way to do it, you talk about the evolution of criticism and the way the puzzle is sometimes literature and sometimes just a game. When I started to make puzzles kind of for my imagined solvers. I mean, people I cared about, people I wanted to solve the puzzle and be delighted by the references that I included. And over time, as I've just gotten older, and also as I've become a writer of other things, I've started to make puzzles for me. And there's always, of course, I think, an infectiousness to people whose voice comes through so strongly that you're attracted to it, right? Making the kind of puzzle that you most want to see in the world, I think, is actually the most magnetic thing out there. Not trying to make a New York Times puzzle, but putting out a puzzle on your blog that is in the shape of a minion and has like yellow squares and overalls. And
I'm a Gru head, so I would like to play a minion crossword puzzle.
There's an amazing minion puzzle that I will send you.
Okay.
That the clues are written in this like rambling shitposty way. I mean, the internet really changed a lot of this. So we've attracted new solvers already by shying away from the concise syntax of a New York Times crossword and welcoming the like rambly, personality laden, bloggy voice of a puzzle that runs online 2 days after you dreamt it up, as opposed to a year or two after you submitted it.
Yeah, well, Toni Morrison famously said, if there's a puzzle you want to solve, you write it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. We should use that next time Toni comes up as a clue.
Tell me a bit, I guess, about working under Will. You interned for him at first. First of all, he takes your first puzzle, then you end up interning for him, and then you end up doing puzzles for him. What's that relationship like?
I mean, it's a very deep relationship. I mean, he is exactly the same age as my dad, so
Okay.
there's some stuff going on there for sure. But Will,
You're finding Forrester.
yeah, yes, exactly. But no, Will. I mean, Will is in his 70s now, but when he takes over at the Times in 1993, he's kind of the young gun. I mean, he is the avant-gardist who's, willing to clue Oreo as the cookie and willing to have pop culture invade the grid and willing to have especially music finally sound off in the puzzle. And so a lot of us, including myself, looked up to Will for the renovations that he had introduced to the Times puzzle. And he was really keen on encouraging young voices to enter the crossword scene. So we had a back and forth. When I submitted my first puzzle, he was like, "Great clues. I'm changing this one. By the way, how old are you? And I need an intern this summer." He was actually much more the person to take the initiative to bring new and young voices into the crossword scene. Interning for him was wild. I mean, this is at the time, all of the editing happened like in his house.
Okay.
In this like heaving sort of Tudor revival in Pleasantville, New York. It's like I grew up in Brooklyn, so I would take like 2 hours of trains and like end up in the suburbs basically. And then like he would greet me at 10:30 a.m. in crossword print PJs, and his house would have like crossword clocks that were minute hand and pencil hand, or minute and second hand or whatever, were pencils. Like the house is a shrine to puzzles.
Yeah.
And we just go upstairs and he has a
That's
clipboard.
so Tim Burton-y.
Yeah. I mean, it's like heaving with books. It's definitely, it needs to be animated, right?
Yeah.
It's like 100% this Magic Castle environment. And the days were just, he would like ask me for help with a clue. I would Google something while he would look it up in a big book. We would rewrite clues together. He would try out his NPR puzzle on me.
Yeah.
And if I got it too quickly, he'd toughen it up. I mean, it was interesting too, because I'm an outer borough kid. I think of myself as someone who grew up quickly. I think a lot of outer borough kids grow up fast in New York. And he was someone who was like in his 50s, whose life was devoted to like childlike play. And I was there where he took a phone call from, I think, his accountant, who was like, and he was basically like, "Liquidate the puzzle fortune. I'm buying a ping pong club," or whatever. Right? It's like this person plays as his job and would like to arrange the world so that he can keep playing at night. I mean, and there's, the will of that, right? Pun intended, was like kind of overwhelmingly interesting. But also at the time, I now work in politics and research and advocacy and care. It matters to me that my job does those things. I think I learned that if my job was just puzzles, I don't think I'd be happy. I don't know, but I've never done it.
Yeah. Speaking of solving a puzzle so quickly, right? We're obviously in a world where AI exists. And I was very interested, for one, in the moments in your book where you describe how AI has sort of helped creating crossword puzzles, and not in a negative way. But how do you feel about the role of AI now as a puzzle maker?
Yeah,
Constructor. I keep saying puzzle maker, like you're making Pinocchio or something. I don't know.
It's Legos. It's Legos with words. I think one thing I often think is that, crosswords have these 3 tasks you have to do. You have to come up with a theme, you have to build the grid, and you have to write the clues. And those first 2 processes are somewhat technical. And so we've kind of already had computer assistants for those 2 parts that are amenable to computer assistance. If you notice that the phrase "sore loser" repeats every single letter except for the L, that's interesting, but you will never come up with interesting examples using your brain. It's just quite hard to search the mind that way. But a very simple little computer script will adduce examples like Hippocratic Oath, which repeats every single letter twice except for the R.
Oh, wow.
Right? And it takes the human touch to string together examples that in order have their extra letters spell out leftovers, right? This was a real puzzle that appeared that made use of some of these tools to make the puzzle more interesting using the human touch on the back end. That's puzzle making. I mean, I will say for writing clues, AI is still not that good at having a voice, right? Or rather, the presence of its voice is kind of the absence of a human voice. Like, it's not good. It's not interesting. And so, I mean, I'm trying to imagine that crossword clue that's like in bold. Like, it's not that lake. It's the other Lake Erie. Just like it's like bolded in weird places. Like, I don't think it would be a good clue. So there are tools that exist that already help. A big thing, and it's important to just always sound this alarm. I mean, the AI question is always a labor question.
Mm-hmm.
There are puzzle outfits that, their end game is go to some company and say, you want puzzles on your website? We'll make them for you with AI and host them on your website, right? The AI is trained on puzzles that I made, that my friends made, that other constructors made.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't see a dime of that. I mean, that is the kind of sort of collective angst that we feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a author myself, when you think about the idea of AI novels, right? Everyone's always talking about this, and there's always someone online who's just trying to make a buck by writing an AI novel. It's sure there's going to be an audience for people who want to read that, because there's always an audience for garbage, but you are not going to have the fun with language. You're not going to construct a sentence in a really weird or interesting way if you're a computer. Only a human is going to do that.
Totally. I mean,
and only humans are depressed, I'm sure there's, I'm sure you have moments where you've made crossword puzzles where it reflects like you having a really shitty day.
One across tuba sound, two across still in bed. 100%. I mean, the other thing too, I was thinking about this recently because I was reading Ben Lerner's new novel, Transcription.
Transcription, yes.
And he talks about this in the book, but also in interviews, where it's like, actually reading a book that I know was composed by a human being is part of the fun. Like, I actually need to know that there's a human on the other side of that is, transcribing, transmitting part of their experience to me, even if the prose is good, which it isn't yet in an AI novel. The fact that I know there's no ghost in that machine makes my experience of it less interesting.
Yeah, I think about the one thing that will probably combat AI novels and writing, is exactly that notion of human beings want to connect to other human beings. It's the reason why we're always wondering, who did Carly Simon write You're So Vain about? It's the reason why right now you have this reevaluation of Toni Morrison even, and you have people arguing about whether or not she was too mean, or whether or not what her books mean. And you're always in a class or just amongst friends talking about what a book means, or you're talking about what a song means, like what's Justin Bieber's mental state, etc. What is Beyonce or Taylor Swift telling us in a song, and we like the art that we like because we like to figure out the person who wrote it. We like to figure them out. You're figuring out their mind while you're also reading their work. And
definitely,
I just don't anticipate ever wanting to figure out the
commune
mind
with
of,
an AI.
A robot.
No, not at all. There's nothing there.
I went to my friend Isaac Fitzgerald's book launch at Books Are Magic. He was interviewed by Roxane Gay. He talks about how he writes by longhand.
Yeah.
And I write by longhand now too, actually. I used to write my essays. Obviously, I wrote my book that was a book of essays. I wrote that by computer. But since I switched to writing fiction, like, I write by longhand now, because I just feel like I am getting more out of the sentence. Like, I'm having more fun, like, constructing something instead of, typing back and forth on a computer or something, right? And he did the same thing for his recent book. He wrote the entire thing in a journal, longhand. His wife, Kelly, is the one who transcribed it for him.
That's tale as old as time.
Maybe AI is good for that.
Totally. I mean, 100%. There are, grunt work moments that I do want out of my day. At the same time, like, I don't know, I have a newborn, and so I've been reacquainting myself with, like, boredom that isn't mediated by technology.
Yeah.
Like, I just have to wash the bottles, or I have to feed him, or I have to change him. And it's meditative and nice. I mean, I've had some of the most creative thoughts I've had this year at 2 a.m. doing something quotidian, like changing a diaper.
Yeah.
And, Longhand builds that space and time into it. It builds the distraction dam, right? I'm a big, like, Google Docs is open and I'm switching tabs, and that's like I need a brick from my laptop. Like
That is why I write longhand.
Exactly.
And it's why I, sometimes love leaving my laptop at home, because I'm just, I use the legal pad this is my third Toni Morrison mention this episode. She's gonna appear right now. You see,
she's gonna call right now.
You mentioned her 3 times on a podcast. She calls.
Yeah.
But I was watching this documentary of her on Netflix, and legal pads. And I think that it is. Yeah, there's something about your brain where you're trying to figure something out, and then also where you can't just waste so much time looking up a different word.
Yeah.
Because I'm using this one word too much. I want to look up something else. Or it's me, ever the ADD procrastinator. I'm making a cultural reference, because I'm currently writing something set in the 90s, right? And I'm making a cultural reference, and I'm like, oh, I should find out like the actual year this song came out, or like the actual lyrics, or find out something that I can have the character reference that makes it, more full, like I'm teaching like the reader something. Then I spend like 2 hours on the computer looking up like Peter Gabriel songs.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds fun. I feel the same way. I mean, crossword writing is like this too, where my tabs at the end of a puzzle writing session are this weird collage of like, where is peri peri sauce actually from? Like, how old is Fred Astaire? All this stuff. That's just
Where is it from, by the way?
I'm
obsessed with peri peri sauce.
I love it.
In the sense that I first discovered peri peri sauce, but from the HBO show Looking.
That's amazing.
Because the character Dom was trying to open up a peri peri chicken restaurant, and then once I discovered what peri peri chicken actually was, and that it's fucking everywhere, I was like, well, this is one of the dumbest plot points I've ever seen in TV.
It's doomed to fail, I think.
I mean, it's the only good dish at Jack's Wife Freda.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would burn the restaurant. I think it's horrible, but the peri peri chicken, I like it.
It's really good, and it's spicy. I like when it's spicy.
Yeah.
It's in the book because someone was looking up what it is connected to etymologically. I think it's like Swahili for spicy or something.
Yeah.
Or for pepper, maybe.
Well, that's what I get for speed reading.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a real thing where, I don't know, I've been letting the mind wander more. I think that happens in longhand. I think it happens, when you don't have all those distraction devices. I think a big thing is, think about writing, when I write poems or write poetry, sometimes writing a formal poem is a good kind of Buddhistic ego death moment where you get to the end of a line and you need something that's a certain prosody or a certain rhyme, and the first word you think of doesn't fit the scheme.
Yeah.
So you have to forget yourself a little bit and choose the second or third or seventh word that comes to you. Any practice like that now, I think, is something I hold on to for dear life, and I'm going to try writing poems longhand. Poets really swear by that because it mimics the breath, right? I mean, poetry is such a like embodied thing that knowing where the line should end by the kind of like your body writing it thing, like having that, cognitive embodied connection, I think is really useful.
Yeah, or if you're like the poet Nicki Minaj, R.I.P.
Yeah.
She passed away recently. You can rhyme China 10 times in a verse.
It rhymes.
I actually really love the concept of musicians taking the same word and rhyming it constantly.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a whole, I like, like pop songs, but also like especially rap and sometimes nerdcore, but sometimes just punchline rappers, like, are a huge influence in this book. I mean, the epigraph for a while was the Lil Wayne line, real G's move in silence, like lasagna, right? Like, what is that line? That's a goofy ass pun, but it's also genius.
It's one of the best lines in music ever.
Genius.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got really interested at the end of the book in the kind of the blurry line between like why that line hits so hard, but then we have MF Doom who's kind of leaning into the vulnerability of being a nerd.
Yeah.
And, titling a whole album Food is an anagram of MF Doom. Like, anagrams in particular, to go back to the different ways that we like commune with the soul. I mean, sometimes you anagram something and you go from MF Doom to food, or Britney Spears anagrams to Presbyterians, and you're like, what does it all mean? And it's like nothing. It's just random, right? But trying to find meaning in those moments of wordplay is something I think is really fun. Like, why is a Housewives intro line goofy, but real G's moving sounds like lasagna? Just like put that on my tombstone,
Yeah.
I think that those different moments of wordplay, the Victorian parlor trick and the dad joke, like exist in these two parts of my brain both of which I think are worth exercising.
Yeah, I mean, the art of the Housewives tagline.
So
Do you
good.
like the Rhode Island ones?
They're pretty good. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what
They're actually kind of good. I'm not
I'm
recalling them at the moment, so maybe they're not that iconic. But I love them holding the pearl.
The pearl and the clam thing is amazing. I'm trying to remember what they are. They're pretty goofy. They're pretty goofy.
I think when I think of one of my favorite Housewives taglines, though, they're always just very funny. Like you have a nice pun or something. Like one of my favorites is Sheree from Real Housewives of Atlanta. It was a later season one when she came back, and she says, "Call me a bad waiter because I always spill the tea."
That's great. See, that would not be out of place in like a Lil Wayne or a Chance the Rapper song. Like that is really good. Yeah, I love that. No, yeah, one of my favorite lines in all of hip hop is Black Thought in the Roots saying, "I'm the toast of the town," like Thomas is. It's just like, hadn't thought about those for 2 decades. Very happy to be reminded that that's what you are. One of the things I'm interested in the book, because I start the book on the side of the young crossword makers who really see the puzzle as a tool of cultural arbitration. Mm-hmm. But also, revolution doesn't really happen at the desk, right? I mean, it's like, it's a puzzle. It is just a puzzle. And it canonizes writers and critics that we admire, books that we love, shows we want people to watch. But it also is just a puzzle. It just really is in need of withstanding that contradiction.
Yeah. I do like how the clues for myself too have changed over time.
Yeah.
It's gone from writing critic. Then once it was Keep It podcast host.
Yeah.
The most recent one, the Apple News one, was Pure Innocent Fun author. I was like, oh great.
They're keeping up.
They're keeping up with what I'm doing. Okay, I want to ask you lastly, what is one of your favorite crossword clues ever? It can be your own, can be someone else's.
Yeah.
And what's one that you, I guess, never got to use?
Ooh, that's a good question. There are clues, like good jokes that their puns stay with you forever.
Yeah.
So Spencer Leach had a clue from a year or two ago that was golden retriever who ends up with a chocolate lab. And every word is basically a pun. The answer is Charlie Bucket.
Yeah.
Because he was a retriever of the golden ticket who ended up with a lab that makes chocolate. And I love how, nothing to do with dogs, I just love that. I love how it anchors your attention and then takes it away. And then I love pool noodles, ? Which is an Eric Agard clue for mind melds or mind meld. Because when you pool multiple noodles, you are melding minds. And I love that it's not a noun. And then one last one, drag to court. I think this is a Paolo Pasco, Eric Agard collab. Mm-hmm. When it sounds, legalistic, but the answer is swipe right. Because if you drag your finger that way, you were trying to court someone.
That's actually beautiful.
I really, yeah. Love is possible. And then a clue, that's a great question. A clue that I haven't been able to use. I think that, I mean, because I'm a poet, I'm often trying to clue regular words via the morsel of poetry that comes to me when I see the word. Mm-hmm. And very frequently, my New Yorker editors are like, I mean, what? Like, no one knows that poem.
Yeah.
And the argument there is often, if the answer is gettable, then it's okay. Mm-hmm. There was this comedian, Ada Nicole, had this project called
Anna Nicole Smith.
No, but she should look into that.
Great comedian.
Yeah, great comedian. Yeah. Performance artist, right?
I mean, the Trend Spot ad is is one of our greatest texts.
Yeah, I mean, she's very important to guys who grew up when I did, for sure. But Ada Nicole like crowdsourced new takes on the word Oreo, which of course has been in puzzles so many times.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, you can never really maybe use these, but clues like, cookie split by Ross and Rachel on the first episode of Friends, which I remember
Of
watching.
course. Yeah.
Or cookie that, the twins in Parent Trap eat with peanut butter, right? Those like scenes immediately are evoked.
That's for Vulture then.
Yeah,
exactly. Something like that where you're already dealing with a fan who knows the minutia of movies and TV.
Totally. And 100%. And the thing with a crossword clue is, to people who don't know those references, that clue is cookie, 4-letter word. So like you should get it.
Yeah.
It's Oreo again. To people who know those references, they're delighted. And there are a lot of clues like that I think puzzles really draw on that make people happy that the reference happened.
Okay. Great. And also, finally, I think I came up with my tagline.
Amazing. Wait,
Yeah. I think it's something like, I'm a businessman and I stay in everyone's.
That's really good. I need one at some point.
Natan, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.